Hello, friends. For millennia, the religion of the world taught a person to believe that death is not the end. Christianity spoke of the eternal soul, Buddhism, of rebirth, Hinduism, about the karmic path, and in the Islamic tradition, death was perceived as a transition to a different form of being. For millions of people, faith in the immortality of the soul was a source of hope and internal power. But there was always a doubt. What will science say? So used to relying on facts and evidence. For many years, the scientific approach was materialistic and skeptical. A person was considered only a biological organism, which after death breaks up, leaving only silent memories. However, in recent decades, the situation has become rapidly changing. Modern science, moving along the path of strict research, unexpectedly began to discover confirmations of ideas that were previously considered exclusively religious dogmas. Consciousness outside the brain. One of the main discoveries was the study of the phenomenon of consciousness. For a long time, it was believed that consciousness was just a function of neurons. But modern experiments, including observations of people in a state of clinical death, show amazing. Consciousness can exist outside the brain. Thousands of cases of experiences on the verge of death are recorded by doctors around the world. People talk about the same thing: a feeling of leaving the body, light, meeting with dead relatives, a feeling of absolute peace. Previously, this was attributed to hallucinations, but studies show that the brain does not function at the time of clinical death. So the source of these experiences is not in neurons. And this exactly echoes what religion spoke about for centuries. The soul has existed separately from the body. Quantum physics and ancient exercises. Even more amazing was that quantum physics approached the same conclusions. At the subatomal level, matter behaves strangely. Particles can be in two places immediately, are interconnected by an instant connection that does not obey the laws of classical logic. Scientists spoke that reality may not be the only one, but consciousness, a kind of key to its perception. Many researchers note, all this amazingly resembles the ideas set forth in the religions of the East. Buddhism, for example, claims that the world is an illusion created by consciousness. Hinduism speaks of the multiplicity of worlds and rebirth. And now science actually brings the foundation to these statements, showing that the material world is much less solid than it seemed to us. Genetics and desire for eternal life. On the other hand, biology also begins to confirm ancient ideas. The scriptures are often mentioned that a person was created for eternal life, and only sin made him mortal. Today, science studies aging genes and is looking for ways to turn on mechanisms that allow cells to be renewed endlessly. It turned out that in our genome, the programs of immortality are really laid. Stem cells can share almost endlessly, and telomeres, protective ends of the chromosomes, determine how long the cell will live. Scientists are already able to slow down the aging of telomeres and hence the whole process of human aging. This again echoes religious teachings, claiming death is only a temporary test and eternal life is possible. Bridge between science and Vera. Today it becomes obvious that science and religion are not at all enemies, as it was thought until recently. On the contrary, they seem to go to the same truth in different ways. Religion speaks the language of images and faith. Science, the language of formulas and experiments, but the essence of their conclusions coincides. Many scientists openly admit that they feel the breath of something more when they study the structure of the universe. Physics studying space indicate the presence of a higher mind in the laws of nature. Doctors observing the phenomenon of life after death are forced to admit the soul of a person can be a reality. Thus, in the 21st century, we witnessed an amazing event. Religious teachings about the immortality of the soul, which for centuries seemed only the subject of faith, begin to receive confirmation from the most strict and rational science. If science and religion converge in the fact that death is not the end, but only the transition, then the consequences of this discovery are difficult to overestimate. This changes not only the worldview of each individual person, but also the fate of the entire civilization. For millions of people, the fear of death is the main source of anxiety. But if we understand that the soul is eternal, then this fear disappears. We begin to treat life as a valuable but temporary stage on an endless path. In this sense, the teachings of religions and new scientific data are united. They teach us not to be afraid of the end, but to perceive it as the beginning of a new chapter. A person who believes in immortality becomes freer. He is not afraid to take risks for the sake of good, help others, sacrifice for justice. After all, he knows his true I will not disappear. This idea is able to change the whole society, making it more humane and responsible. But it is not only about spiritual immortality. Biology and medicine are already opening ways to extend life. Perhaps in decades, a person will be able to live hundreds of years, maintaining health in a clear mind. Religious texts often talk about the coming era when death ceases to rule over a person. Today, it no longer sounds like a myth. Scientific laboratories develop gene therapy, medicines for rejuvenation of cells, methods of transplanting organs printed on 3D printers. For the first time in the history of mankind, we really approach the execution of ancient prophecies. It is especially important that this progress does not destroy faith, but strengthens it. For a believer, confirmation of science is signs that truths recorded in sacred books really reflect the deep laws of the universe. For a scientist, this is evidence that religion can store ancient wisdom, which only now begins to reveal in the light of modern discoveries. It is in this association of science and faith that the future of mankind lies. We stop arguing about who is right. We begin to understand that the truth is one, and each path, religious or scientific, leads to it. Imagine a world where people are no longer afraid of death, where everyone understands that life is not a race for material benefits, but the possibility of spiritual growth, where science helps a person live a long and meaningful life, and religion directs him to harmony and love. Such a world is already beginning to form. More and more people openly say that the soul is eternal. More and more scientists are recognized. Reality is more complicated than they thought. And if this trend continues, then our century can become a turning point. Time when humanity finally realizes its immortality. Modern science confirms that religions have been taught for centuries. Death is only a transition, not an end. The human soul is eternal, and the person itself is created for immortality. We are on the verge of a new era, where science and faith will unite in order to reveal the greatest gift to humanity, awareness of their eternal nature. And perhaps in the near future, people will look at death not with horror, but with a smile, because they will know for sure, life never ends, it only changes its shape. And immortality, which was spoke of the prophets and saints, becomes a reality before our eyes. Friends, thanks for watching to the end. If this topic is close to you, make like, subscribe, and write in the comments what you think about immortality. Your support inspires to continue to search and share such amazing discoveries. Until new meetings.